Trip will die if Phlox can't find a fix. Oh look, it's another Tuvix.
Ah!
Give up your brain goo, the captain says. There'll be no second chances. But will Sim suck it up and give in, or will he channel his enemy within? In the end, he lay down on the bio bed, and everyone was sad when he was dead. T'Pol went ahead and gave him a kiss, but was this episode a hit or a miss? I'm Justin.
I'm Josh.
And this is From There to Here. Let's see. This week we are looking at Season 3, Episode 10, Similitude. And according to the IMDb, the description is, Archer decides to make a fast-growing clone of Trip to help save his life while Enterprise is stranded in a dangerous field with nucleonic particles. That's it. That's enough.
Okay, so in terms of rating,
I
think this might be, on the IMDb, this might be rated... Well, it's definitely, I think, in a 7 range episode. I'll say 7.6. What do you think?
Well, I know this is a highly rated episode, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna say this gets into the 8s.
You think so?
I'm gonna say 8 just to not 8 point anything, just
because of its moral dilemma.
Yeah, I think it's something that Trek fans like.
Okay, well, what is it?
It is 8.4.
Okay, I was way off. Okay.
It is listed by IMDb as a top-rated episode.
It is. Okay. Some trivia from Wikipedia. So this episode is a bottle show set on the ship using only existing sets, although it does feature guest cast portraying the younger versions of Commander Tucker. The newborn clone Sim was played by a set of 8-week-old triplets, and the 8-month-old baby was portrayed by twins. Maximilian Kesmodel was the 4-year-old, and Shane Sweet played the 17-year-old Tucker.
As in Helsinki Sweet.
Yes, Finland. Adam Taylor Gordon, who previously played young Trip in The Xindi, returned as 8-year-old Sim, working for 4 out of the 7 days of production. I don't remember there being a young version in The Xindi.
Do you? Either. Maybe it was flashbacks to him with his sister.
Is that what it was?
What else could it have been?
I guess.
I have no memory of this.
Well, that's all for trivia.
Yep, that's fine.
So yeah, this is a quality episode. I like it.
Sure.
It is. In your poem, you did mention Tuvix, of course. I think. Even reviewers on Wikipedia mentioned that it has a lot of parallels to Tuvix.
Of course.
And
to Enemy Within.
Oh, yeah.
The one captain, the aggressive one, doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to merge.
Well, neither did
the soft one wanted to, because he knew that he needed his strength. But the tough one was like, you'll live. I want to live.
You mean in the Enemy Within?
Yeah.
Well, I understand that. But, I think there's more comparisons to Tuvix than there would be to Enemy Within.
Agreed. But they're both examples.
That was exploring a dark and
a split
of the persona.
Yeah,
this isn't.
Yeah,
no. Anyway, well, like one of the other reviewers on the IMDb, not IMDb, Wikipedia had said that she felt the ending was a bit of a cop-out. And I hadn't thought of it like that.
In what sense?
Before. That this reviewer thought that it might have been more dramatic, more compelling if Sim actually replaced the real Trip.
Yes. And if you think about it, they've done that before. They did that with Harry Kim.
And what was that? Was that Deadlock? Yeah.
Where they did take the alternate Kim, and he just had a few memories that were different.
Yeah, but it's just Kim. Who cares?
But this, we know from, and I think they were kind of setting you up to think maybe that was going to happen, to where he could obviously access all the memories. Right. So he was basically going to be Trip. Right. So I would almost make the argument, what difference does it make then? Mm-hmm. It's Trip either way. Mm-hmm. He would literally have all the memories and then some. It's not like he's even missing out on any. He would have a couple more because of these additional experiences. So I get the initial reaction to say it's a cop out, but if they had gone through with it, honestly, it doesn't really matter. You know, it's not like we would be getting a different Trip. You know what I mean? That would have been interesting. You know, if we had a different Trip as a result.
If his personality was a little different.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not what they set up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he could be a Trip without an accent. You know, I don't know. You know, something to show he's different.
Something I pointed out when we were watching this. The teenage version of Trip lost his accent for some reason. He had it when he was 8 years old, but then he didn't have it when he was 17 for some reason. Yeah. But why the hell would he even have an accent? It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. No. Unless because he has the memories of Trip, it kind of influences the way he talks. Like an accent is learned. So
yeah, I suppose so.
You could make that argument. And then by the time he's a teenager, I forgot it.
Well, why that? Yeah, well, something you made a point of just prior to that line of exposition coming in, which explains why he has his memories as well. You're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. It's a clone using his DNA. Why would he have his memories?
Well, yeah, they gave some sort of one-line answer, right. But it still doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. You know, all he did was sample Trip's DNA and put it in there. Mm-hmm. It just grew a clone. Like it should be blank. You know, but of course that wouldn't be much of an episode if they did that.
Right.
So it's got to be more.
Would it have been? Maybe we could have gotten an episode more like what we were thinking, where his personality really would be different.
Well, no, there's something because he would have had all the genetic possibility to be what Trip was, you know, an engineer, you know, mm-hmm. a mechanically minded person. He could have all that, but be a different person. And he could hyper accelerate in his growth. So it could be like Ian from
the child,
where he grows quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps because he grows quickly, you could make up some sci-fi reason to why he can acquire speech fast and all of that stuff. Mm. So he can be a functional member of the crew within 2 days. But he does not have the memory.
That's kind of what made Tuvix more interesting because
he was a genuinely different person.
He was a new person. He took those qualities of both men and made it his own. And he had his own personality separate from the memories of them.
Yeah.
So that was more affecting. This, not as much.
No. And I think that's why, because you're not going to lose either way. We're either going to get him or Trip, and it's going to be the same thing. So you may feel for him as a living being, but for us, the audience, that there's kind of no threat because you know one of them will survive and they're both the same. So,
right, which starts off the show with the teaser where we see that
he does not. Yeah.
Well, we see what looks to be Trip.
Well, yeah.
In
and we don't know as the episode continues. Well, who was that?
Yeah, which one was
Could
that?
Have been either one.
But that's a good teaser.
Yeah.
Usually these teasers for Enterprise aren't very effective, but this one is.
Yeah.
It's very short and sweet. And you're like, oh, well, Trip died. How did he die? How are they going to fix this? We don't know.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. Dramatically, though, it's okay. Maybe it loses a bit of its punch because I've seen this one a few times.
Yeah.
It is one that I'll go back and rewatch. It has some good qualities to it.
Mm-hmm.
It is nice seeing the different the different ages of Trip that we haven't been able to see. Only we'd see what he was like when he was young or when he was 17. That worked.
Yeah.
I mean, it does create that tension between he and DePaul, which could not have existed as much if he was a blank slate.
Right. Of course. You wouldn't have that at all.
No, you wouldn't. No. What could have been, let me rephrase that. What could have, God damn it, I can't talk today. What could his personality have been if we were starting off with a blank slate?
Well, it really could have been anything, but in doing that, I mean, I'm sure in the writer's room, this became a question, you know, that their instinct was probably just have him be a genetic clone that could learn very quickly. So therefore he is a different person. But then you lose all of the dramatic tension between he and T'Pol and his feelings and sharing that as a kickoff to, you know, the real Trip into T'Pol.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it would have been more dramatic for him to be essentially slaughtered at the end for Trip's purpose.
And that's, again, I hate to point to Tuvix one more time, but it's hard not to.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that made Tuvix so memorable was, in the end, it was that climax was very gut-wrenching because he's begging for his life in front of everyone,
and no one will help him.
And Janeway is the one that has to kill him in the end.
Yeah.
And that's great. The doctor actually is the only one that says, I can't. I'm programmed. I can't do it any other way. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I really honestly wish someone had said Captain is and like they're gonna fight for him, but then Janeway just goes, don't do it. Like show that someone would have taken his side. Someone ethically might have. Now, would they stand up to the Captain? That's a whole nother animal. But that would have been interesting, even if she just shut them down quickly, just to show that not everyone agreed, and they may not have. Their silence could mean either thing.
Yeah.
But it would have been interesting, other than the doctor saying no.
Well, they never would have done that. No. I mean, they wouldn't have the balls to do that. There would be a constant rift between the captain and
not a fight about it. Just go, Captain, is this, no, hey, I'm the captain. Don't go down that road. That said, Bakula
he did fine.
I don't know if like just in life he was like tired that week or what.
Well, he was growing a beard.
Well, it was more than just a beard. He looked like ragged and tired. Remember that other episode with Malcolm where we thought, man, it was the Twilight episode. Like he looked ragged.
Yeah.
To me, Bakula looked like ragged in the eyes.
Maybe took some tips from
the
other actor. Like, how do you look like you've just stay awake for a couple of days?
I don't know, but
don't shave.
It worked. He looked like someone carrying a giant burden.
Yeah.
And I like the scene where he says, "You're not going to do this. You're not a killer." And he says, "Don't make me one." In other words, I'm going to do it. I like that. That was cool.
I think they could have been drawn out a little bit more.
I agree.
In the end, it was a little too neat, wrapped up a little neatly.
Yes, I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, I'm not saying they had to copy what Tuvix did, the episode, not the character, but create some kind of tension between the crew and Sim wanting
I have something
to live. Yes.
Not so much the wanting to live part, but there's that scene where towards the end there, when Archer goes to Trip's quarters and Sim is in there and he goes, "Oh, look, what are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm in my quarters." "No, these are Trip's quarters, not yours." And he's like, "This is not yours," and all of that. It might have, given that the captain has no real wavering attitude on this once he made the decision, maybe for a couple scenes, no, because his genetic memory, whatever. Let's pretend that the growing Sim, like in his adolescent age or his teenage version, started to have his like he knew who the crew was, because his memories are catching up quick. Like, let's just say, because the memory thing's a bullshit sci-fi thing anyway.
Yeah.
So what if he's remembering people? So let's say 10-year-old Trip is walking down the corridor and he sees Archer, who is arguably one of his better friends. And he goes, "Captain, da da da." And you see Archer look back and he brushes him off, gets into the turbo lift. He's like, Captain. And he just lets the door close because he doesn't want to see him. He doesn't want to talk to him. He doesn't want to bond with him. Even the teenage version could say, "Well, hey, Cap, remember when we did this?"
Well,
I'm busy.
Does
kid.
that make sense?
Click.
I mean, he wouldn't remember him by that point in his life. Right?
That's what I'm saying. Like they could just make the excuse that the memories were catching up quicker.
Okay.
Who cares? Whatever. Just to have those moments where Archer is ignoring him and he's ghosting him because he doesn't want to connect with him because he knows he's going to die.
That's not bad.
Just as a way to kind of give some added extra drama.
Yeah, that's not bad. I did like in this the way the story is constructed now, where Archer does take responsibility and is the one that has to explain to Sim what he is. That was fine. It took a bit long, but to get him to really come out with the truth, but it was fine. I think in the end, there needed to be more struggle, and I think you'll agree with me there.
Oh yeah, sure. He very easily just gives himself to it, and very noble.
Well, he couldn't he have left a message for Trip, Sim? Couldn't he have left a video message, something?
That would have been interesting. Saying, say, I know you, I am you, and all that. I told her, and have him go, what?
I asked her to marry me, and she said yes.
So better start thinking. You're welcome.
Actually, I got to sleep with her, so your chances are pretty good.
Don't screw it up.
Try this line. It worked for me.
And if Ensign so-and-so on deck 3 looks at you funny, just ignore it.
They could have had a little bit more fun with it there.
Yeah. Kind of like the Harry message to himself from the future,
Yeah, and timeless.
Yeah. Signing off, kid. Good luck to you.
Yeah, and of course it brings up this whenever there's a problem with the transporter, I mean,
sure.
or like in Tuvix or with this, there's always the thought in the back of your mind, well, how come they haven't tried that before? In TNG, what was the episode called with Pulaski? I'm blanking on it now. Where she turns old.
Yeah, that's
Unnatural Selection.
Yeah.
Where they use the transporter trace to like beam to get her old pattern. They take her DNA from a hair follicle,
and use that to filter out the new changes.
Right.
Took away the virus.
Couldn't you do that with just about anything?
Of course you
could. If
could.
a person had like cancer or something.
Of course you could. You just beam it right out of them.
Yeah. Like, okay. So with this, they could have used this symbiote to save somebody else in the past, and they didn't.
Oh, they could use that transporter thing and of course that didn't exist yet, but you could use that. Obviously, you never want to use something like that. It's too much. It's too much power.
Well, that's what this was.
Well, yeah,
they could have used it and they didn't.
Yeah,
in the past or for other things that happen in the future, and they never do.
I mean, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
the series finale. When Trip dies, just go get another one of those squishy little things. Sample his DNA, regrow him, and he'll be good to go. Trip's back.
Well, for 15 days.
Let's say they worked out that whole enzyme thing where it can live on.
Also, and then there's the one we just watched, Twilight, where there was something wrong with Archer's brain.
Yep.
They could have done a symbiote on him, taken what they needed, and then fixed his brain.
Or they could just throw him in the transporter and beam his old pattern.
Use the trace and then
filter it out. Yeah. I mean, everything can be solved with this.
Yeah,
it's
guess.
ridiculous.
And I know you're not supposed to think about it, really.
But you can't help it. You're a logical human being. They're showing you something that is a basically fix-all for everything. It didn't seem that hard to do either. They did it pretty easily.
That's why you shouldn't, in a story, you should never give somebody ultimate power.
Well, that's my point. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
That's why
I know this is my example. I was thinking of the Neverending Story, part 2, the next chapter, where
he has wishes.
He's given wishes, but he doesn't know that when he wishes, he loses a memory.
Right.
He just the bird thing, Wimbley or whatever his name is, just tells him, oh, just make a wish. You get whatever you want.
Yeah.
And he makes the dumbest wishes.
Yeah. I wish for a step.
I wish for a step.
Another step.
And another. And another. Like, just wish you were at the top. Come on, man. Let's put it together.
I wish for all the steps I need to make it to the top.
Yes.
One memory gone.
And when he's fighting the giant robots, yes, he wishes for a spray can. Like, it's the dumbest wish you can imagine.
I wish for a nuclear bomb. Anything. Yeah.
It strains credibility.
Of course.
And because it takes you out of the moment because you're like, God, that's really dumb.
Yeah.
How can I support this protagonist when he's dumber than I am?
It's so stupid.
This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can't do that too often. But I suppose in Star Trek sci-fi, is it forgivable? I mean, we see this kind of stuff all the time. I mean, with the holodeck and whatnot.
Well, wait, is what forgivable? The ultimate power sort of thing that they...
these convenient plot points.
No, I don't think it's forgivable because they introduce something that can solve almost all of the episode's problems going forward. Any episode can be solved with this.
Mm-hmm.
You just deny that technological thing of having that power. Figure out another solution. Don't do that. It's the same reason in Superman that, well, there's two examples in Superman. In Superman 1, even though it's emotionally and dramatic to see him go back in time and save Lois, once he's done that, you're like, well, he can just do that whenever he gets really good and pissed off, he can just go change shit, which is exactly what he goes and does in the director's cut of Superman 2. He just does it again, like on a whim.
The director's cut was assuming that that's not how the first one ended, right?
Well,
that's the way they would have designed.
That's how 2 would have ended. But if Donner and Mankiewicz had gone on and finished 2 from the existing part 1, they never would have ended 2 that way. So they consciously changed, took one ending and gave it to the other. So they never would have ended 2 that way anyway. So it's an anomaly that you have to look at alone. But the fact is they introduced an ability that is a get out of jail free card.
Mm-hmm.
And when Christopher Reeve was going to make Superman 4 and he was coming up with the story, that was the one piece of advice that Tom Mankiewicz gave him. He said, don't put Superman in a situation where he is literally solving the world's problems. It's too big, because once he does that, once he's at that level, you can't take that back.
And he didn't listen.
And he did it. And which could have been interesting if it blew up in his face.
So yeah, let's compare the two. So what does Mankiewicz do? I'll have him spin around the world in reverse time. It'll be so epic. And then what will you do in part 4? I'll create a giant space net and have him catch all the world's nuclear missiles.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so much better. Yeah. And I'll throw it into the sun. Nothing bad will happen from that.
But and in Star Trek, the transporter is a get out of jail free card, just like the holodeck. You and I were joking the other day. We were saying something the other day about the holodeck and how it's whenever they're bored, the writers can't think of anything. Oh, just to have the holodeck go crazy again. Who the hell would go in that murder box?
Right.
It always breaks down. The safeties are always off. You're always in danger.
Yeah.
So no one in their right mind would go into that thing. It's too dangerous. As you do that skiing thing and jump off that cliff, you're going to go, wait a minute, are the safeties on or off?
Yeah.
Just there's some genies you should never let out of the box,
Right.
And I do think that's too much power to introduce,
Well, back to this episode. I think if we were to revise it, even though we've already come up with some other suggestions, are there any other bigger ones that you think you'd want to add to it that would really fundamentally change the episode? I didn't feel the stakes were quite high enough. They were stuck in a very vague nebula. They were attracting some kind of matter onto the ship.
They were going to be stuck in there. They weren't going to be able to get it.
But the crew didn't seem to take it very seriously. It didn't seem like that there was a ticking clock or anything like that. It was all very kind of like, it's just slowly accumulating some debris, big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you mean with that. The problem is if you make it too much, then maybe that would take the attention of the way away. Just some slow thing building up on the outside. It's there. There's a ticking clock, but they don't seem to be. I mean, they of course mention it more than once that they're under a time frame. But you're right, though. I don't really feel that tension.
No, it's just enough to give you some worry, but not enough.
Yeah.
Also, I would have added. There was a good moment between Sim and the doctor at the end, where he says like, "Oh, you were a good father.
dad.
You were a good son." There should have been more in there for them to base that line off of. If they had shown them bonding.
No, I agree. That was not earned in any way.
No, it wasn't. They could have. And so, the Dr. Phlox could have been really, torn about having to put him down, so to speak.
Well, what if what if they pulled another cue from Tuvix and had Phlox say, I can't actually do this? Of course, Sim volunteers for it. But at the same time, ethically, can you do that? Can you do that ethically? You can allow an adult to sign a paper and say, I'll give up my kidney for the better of this person.
Well, he already committed to having to do it
by just creating him in the first place.
They knew what he was going to be used for.
That's true. However, he was of the belief that it was going to live and die its normal life cycle, and he could extract that thing.
That's right.
What he was then asked to do at the end was murder him.
Right.
Even though he was saying you can do it, would a doctor do that? That's essentially committing euthanasia. Would a doctor do that when there's no medical reason for him to do it?
Well, in our society, no, they weren't. So they aren't supposed to.
But Phlox has mentioned that he basically operates on the same philosophy that Earth doctors do, which is do no harm. So even though it would have been exactly Tuvok's ending, he could have said, hey, even though he's offering himself, I can't kill him. Like, I can't do that. So you're going to have to do it. And Archer would pull the Janeway and go, all right, I'll do it. I'll stick that shit in his brain. I'll pull it out. Of course, then we would say the same thing. Well, that's just exactly how Tuvix ended. So I don't know.
I think that.
What if? Oh,
go ahead.
What if it came down to that, to where Phlox, once he realized that Sim would not survive the procedure, he brought that information to Archer, and Archer says, well, we still have to do it. And he said, no, Captain, you understand. I cannot now do this. I can't kill another creature to save another. That's lunacy. I can't do it. And Archer could have said, well, shit, neither can I. Like, I can't do that either. Because this new thing, Sim, will obtain or fully develop all of Trip's memories to where literally he could be the replacement Trip. So he, having a moral thing, could choose to allow Sim to live. Then, behind their back, Sim could say, no, this isn't my life. Trip needs to live. And like in secret, go to Paul, the emotionless one, and say, pull it out. The other guy needs to live. And T'Pol, being the logical one, could say, all right, I'll do it. And then she could surprise everyone going, he's dead. Here's the shit. Maybe to make it interesting. Maybe that's too much. Maybe
I kind of like the idea of when it comes down to that conflict at the end, where it is Sim that realizes he has, even though he does make the decision himself here, he tries to run away first.
Right.
But if he had said like something along the lines of, even though I don't want to die right now, I know that every time someone looks at me, all they're going to see is a copy.
Yes.
They're not going to see the real guy.
Yeah.
I can't live with that.
Yeah.
Like I was born for that one reason.
And maybe he could make that argument to Phlox and Archer, who would still say, well, on the side of morality, we cannot kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're going to die in 5 days and Trip will then die, we can't do that. But T'Pol can, because she can see the logic of it. Wouldn't that be interesting? Just like how, well, here we go again. Just like how in, I think it was a season 1 or season 2 episode of Voyager, where that one society that's all the pleasure planet, they thrive on new experiences. That they love Voyager. It's new stuff. They want to hear everyone's stories, and they have this technology that will allow Voyager to shoot forward really far.
Okay.
And they won't give it up because they believe, like the Federation, we don't give away our technology.
Oh, okay. I know what
but Tuvok goes behind everyone's back and makes a deal, but it doesn't work. And Janeway's like, you violated my trust. Like that, this is not okay.
Right.
But he said it was the right thing to do. I knew you couldn't do it, but I could, because I can compartmentalize my emotions, So maybe a version of that could have happened here just to make it dramatically interesting.
Yeah. See, that's why Voyager's writing is a little bit more clever at times, because, you know, we never saw that coming, that he would do that.
No.
But his logic is right. And he knew that Janeway could never make that decision, but he could.
And he didn't really apologize for it. He's like, I'm sorry I hurt you, but I'm not sorry I did it. You know, he's like, it was
like, it was logical to break the rules in that case.
Yeah. Because I knew you could not.
That's because you're such a stickler.
Right.
So
I knew you'd murder a clone, but you wouldn't do this. You wouldn't give this guy memories or something.
I think that Sim and Trip should have got it on it, and they just, you know, let him have that one thing before he has to go. You know?
Oh, to Paul?
Yes.
To Paul and Sim?
Is that what I said?
I think you said Trip and Sim.
That's
I was like, are you trying to do like the time travel?
No. Yeah. Sim and T'Pol. Yeah, why not? He's gonna die anyway.
Yeah, why not? That would have been interesting. I mean, the kiss tells us what's going to happen later, but that would have been interesting. Yeah. You know, to where like really up the stakes, to where the next time he goes for neuropressure, she's like, hey. And he's like, whoa, what? And he goes, I'm feeling a little exposed here. She's like, well, it's nothing I haven't seen, buddy. What do you mean? Oh, yeah. So I kind of did it with your clone. What? You know?
Yeah, she could tell. Maybe that's something she could bring up much, much later. And like, what?
Or Trip, I'm pregnant with your clone's baby.
So it's kind of yours, by the way. Yeah. But it isn't. But it is.
I guess we got to get married. Let's go meet your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Is there anything major that you would change?
I think we've been over that already. I mean, other than what I mentioned with, there needed to be more of a threat from an external
outside.
threat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe another way to further the kind of alternate plotting that I came up with, where T'Pol would do it. It could end in a similar fashion after she, you know, extracts the stuff. So he's dead. So they do save Trip. It could end kind of like, what's that one with the little, the birthing girl that can't read and stuff.
What?
Well, what is it? Like season 2
of what?
Enterprise? Yeah. The one where she kills herself at the end.
Oh, Cogenitor.
Where Trip feels very, very morally correct until he gets pulled into that office and he goes, I just did what you would have done. He goes, you did what I would have done? What the hell kind of example have I been to you?
Yeah.
There could have been a similar argument with T'Pol and Archer, where he'd say, it's been 3.5 years. I thought I could trust you, and you did this. And she would say, I did what I thought you would do if you were free of kind of the angst, you know, of having to choose. And he could say, what? No, you know, it's going to take a while for this to be okay, you know, and just leave it there. Let there be some discomfort, just like there was in that episode. Like that, you do not like watching that scene where Archer totally knocks Trip down and shames him for his choice. You could have a similar bit in this to kind of add that dramatic punch.
If anything, I think they missed out on, like I said, the dynamic that could have existed between Phlox and and Sim. And
I didn't need that.
I think between T'Pol and Sim, in the scenes that they gave us, it was kind of just felt like a bit of an appetizer. I was like, yeah, make that more of the focus.
Right.
Like they knew by this point they were going to be leading into their relationship.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So why not make it a bit more? We've been teased with this neuropressure thing for like 10 episodes now.
Yeah.
Just give us a bit more. Give us a bit more insight into, that's what this was supposed to be. Give us more insight into Trip's mind. But they didn't give us enough.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah.
Do more with that.
Yeah. I agree. That should have been the narrative thrust. Is anything that can be given away by this version of Trip that the other Trip would have held on to.
Right.
Yeah. And then he has to face the repercussions of that going forward.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I mean, because now the real Trip has to confront what Sim may have said to others
Mm-hmm.
Not just to Paul, but others.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Well, was there anything else you wanted to say about Similitude?
No, I would say I was looking forward to this episode because, like you said, that this is one that I have rewatched. It's one of the precious few that I have gone back to.
Yeah, although it like we said last week, it doesn't have much to do with the Zindi arc.
No, not at all. It's a good bottle episode.
Mm-hmm. It could have been from any season.
True.
Yeah.
It just suffers from the same problem that so many other episodes of good episodes of this series.
They just don't take enough risk.
That, but also they've done it before.
Yeah.
We've been here before.
And it was better.
There's nothing wrong in this episode. It all works. The performances are all good, all of that. But it's been done, and done well.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind if they redid a plot device that maybe wasn't fully explored, but it's kind of hard to beat Tuvix. Like Tuvix was, I think, the crown jewel of they've created something. Now they got to kill it. And
plus we had the actor, we had a different actor with
Tuvix. I
and
know
he was a guy that was very magnetic.
He had charisma and charming, and you don't want to see him go. And you could see him easily becoming part of the series going forward. You could imagine that.
Yeah.
And that's like the gold standard. Good luck beating that one. And I wouldn't say they beat it. They did well, but like I said, it's been done. That's all. That's its biggest crime, is that it's been done before.
Yeah, I don't remember Voyager doing that as much.
Did they ever? Well, other than Tuvix, I mean,
no, I meant where they're taking past concepts and spinning them out into
honestly,
different
no. I can't, right now off the top of my head, I cannot think of a Voyager episode that was basically a redo of a TNG or a TOS.
And DS9 didn't do that either.
No.
So I don't know why Enterprise is doing it. I mean, are they just out of ideas at this point?
Honestly, I think so. And I mean,
was the writing staff burned out?
I think they were. I mean, we're looking at people that have been doing this for 15 years at this point. How many new ideas are you going to come up with?
Yeah, and it's the same producers, right? For the most part,
sure.
They've been working on Next Gen, Voyager,
Berman
DS9.
from day one in TNG.
Yeah,
Braga came on early on TNG, and I mean, they may not write by hand every episode of Enterprise, but they're directly involved in the creation process. They may even be the ones to say, all right, hey, make an episode like this. I have this idea. Now go write that,
But by the time they get into season 4, we don't have anything like that.
No, it was taken over by a Star Trek fan that wanted to, in the best way possible, connect this old series to TOS.
Yeah. Well, it finally became more of its
the
own
show
thing.
that people wanted it to be.
Yeah. But still it had its own identity at that point. Too little, too late.
Well, I wouldn't say it was too little, because I think the fourth season was exactly what everyone wanted. It was just too late. It wasn't too little.
Okay.
But season 4 did. If you had told me,
I like season 4, but I think it's a lot of it is a little bit too much of remember that.
Well, I was going to say that's exactly what I was going to address. If you were to tell
remember
me,
Orion Slave Girls?
No, I know. But if you were to tell me before season 4 started, before the series started, that they're going to do episodes having to do with the Lost Enterprise, they're going to end up in the Mirror Universe, not Enterprise, the Yorktown, I think it was.
I'm not sure.
The one that went through the rift that
I know.
The mirror, they're going to do the Mirror Universe. They're going to go to Vulcan, and you're going to see a Salat. They're going to meet a young T'Pau, and all that. I would say it sounds like fan service. What are you doing?
Right.
Now, that said, maybe I'll feel differently when we sit down and rewatch season 4. My memory is that even though they touched on all those things, I never felt like it was fan servicey. I felt like it was doing it in its own voice and in its own way, to where I never felt like it was forced fan service. Like, good Lord, the scene that pops up into my head is like, why is that there? Is The Force Awakens. Well, there's many parts of The Force Awakens, but when they first get onto the Falcon and Finn and Mary Sue are she's working on something,
Yeah.
and she goes, "Give me this thing," and he dig through a box of stuff, and he pulls out the ball that Luke does his lightsaber training with, and he just kind of holds it up. Here, everybody, look, and then he throws it aside. Yeah, and I'm like, that's
the curling Nescar.
Well, that was there literally for a member berry.
Yes,
and my memory is that season 4 of Enterprise doesn't do that. It feels like its own thing. And it does, in my memory again, effectively transition the Vulcans from Enterprise Vulcans, which were kind of nasty, to closer to TOS Vulcans going forward, you know. And
that's my memory of it too.
Yeah, and I hope it holds up. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's a 3-parter where they end up meeting T'Pau.
Yeah.
And I remember that being good.
So do I.
So I never felt like it was forced fan service. I felt like they were touching on things that had their own, like nothing in that episode nothing in that 3-parter where T'Pau shows up. There's never a, oh, well, thank goodness I've done this. Now I can serve at weddings. Ha 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 ha. Like, or at a battle between people. Like nothing is ever directly referenced to an episode, just characters or situations that are in the Star Trek lore.
Yeah, like with the cons people.
Right.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
What are they called? The
augments.
The augments.
Yeah, I felt like that was its own thing that provided a stepping stone for, the later stuff. But I never did they go to the same biobed, the exact thing. Nothing like that felt forced. It all felt organic to its credit. And again, I hope it holds up.
I hope so.
Because the only thing that I would say ever really touched into that would be the Mirror Darkly. And I think that was just, they were like, we're going to have fun for 2 episodes. We're just going to have a ball with this concept.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to give them a pass on that because it is Mirror Universe. And the only reason any writer writes a Mirror Universe episode is to just have fun with it and see the characters do complete opposites.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. That's fine. And it was fun as shit to see them on an old style Enterprise and all of that stuff.
It's kind of a shame though, because then you're like, I want to watch a whole series when they're like this.
No kidding.
Like when, like in the Voyager episode Living Witness, remember?
Right. Yeah,
they're all wearing like black and they're wearing black gloves and they're all evil.
Look money.
And yeah, I know the doctor's an android instead, but they're all this like murderous people.
Yeah.
You're like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of fun.
But they wouldn't do that.
No, I know.
It would be funny though. All right. Do you want to grade this one?
Sure. Let's see. I'll give it a B+.
That's fair. I was kind
on its own merit. It deserves it. I'm shorting it, and it would otherwise be an A episode if it just hadn't been done already, which is not the episode's fault.
You're right. I'm kind of on the fence, but I think I'll go with a B+. I don't think it's quite A territory, even if it was an A-. So I'll give it a B+. That sounds fair. It's almost there, but just not.
Yeah,
not quite. So for listeners, we did not hear from Sebastian this week. Sebastian, I hope you're okay.
You all right, buddy?
But we did hear from Matt, and he writes about North Star and Similitude. So, I've already read the beginning of his email. I think last week during our podcast, either you or I had said something like, "Oh, hey, if you just caught on to the show, let us know who you are, where you're from."
Yeah.
I don't know how we phrased it, but he writes back, "For demographic purposes, I am a straight white male from Springfield, Missouri." It's like, okay, maybe did you say demographic?
I don't think I used the word demographic, but I did ask where do you hail from, because that can affect your opinion on certain things. Yeah.
I think maybe you said like, yeah, where do you hail from? What are your demographics?
Well,
maybe you said
don't
that.
remember.
Okay, so Matt continues. A theme that stood out to me in North Star is the idea of the oppressed becoming the oppressor. The ideal in our society is for all people to be equal, but there is a fringe element that claims they are about equality, but actually appear to be more about turning the tables and making the oppressors the oppressed. Yes. Essentially, just repeating a cycle that won't be broken until equality is the true goal. Thoughts? Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, Matt has a good point.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of those groups in the real world that are claiming they want equality actually just
they just want to flip the tables.
Yeah, they just want power.
Yeah.
And they play victim. That's how they gain power, something like that. I don't know if that was the writer's intent for North Star though.
I would wager not. Voyager, what was the episode? They had something similar happen. Wait. It was Living Witness.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Living Witness.
No, you're right. Yeah, those two groups.
Where the
people.
victims in Voyager's time flipped the
script.
And in the future, they're in charge, but the other guys are like, yeah, but you totally had to stomp us out to do it.
Plus, they totally play the victim.
Right.
Like, it was you guys that started this war. And they're like, no. You did. Right. Not us. And you've been blaming us for hundreds of years. And they were using that
to justify their dominance,
Yeah, and their continued discrimination against the other side.
Yeah. So it shows up. And maybe it's just an easy writing thing to fall back on or something, or I would say maybe it's easier to say that when writing it, the writers aren't aware how that's going to then look and play off, that it's going to seem like not equality, but that someone's trying to flip the script, because that's exactly what North Star did. The humans were the sort of slaves, and then they flipped it,
right,
and all of that, but
it wasn't the kind of commentary they were going for in North Star.
No, I don't think that was the intent. So I don't think that was on anybody's mind.
That episode wasn't that clever.
No.
No. Matt continues. Similitude, much like Tuvix. Okay, he's not the only one.
Well, of course not. Of course. Everyone's going to think
it. Much like Tuvix, is one of those episodes that is uncomfortable to watch, but in a good way. It's a moral dilemma without a clear and easy answer. I will say my hatred for Archer is coming to a head. He has no problem with committing outright murder to reach his goal, and is an angry, sad sack who is impossible to root for.
I respect that.
That opinion?
No, I respect that Archer is that guy.
Oh, that he has to.
Yeah.
That he has to do it?
That, to me, is compelling writing.
Well, I think so, too.
You don't always have to like your protagonist.
No, he does have to make a decision that is, in the grand scheme of things, the correct one,
right?
But hurts him.
Sure. He just like actually want to do
just that. Like what Riker had to do in Measure of a Man.
Right. He had to do his duty.
And it hurt him, but he had to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really good drama in there, especially when he smiles when he sees something he can use against Data, and then he realizes, oh no.
I might win with this.
That look on his face, you're like, oh. And it, you don't like to see him do what he does.
No,
but
they
it's
even have
drama.
In the original series, there's the Deadly Years, where they have to have a trial to determine Kirk's ability to command because his memory's going, and his friends have to go on stand, and they don't like it, and you see that they don't like it, but they have to go, he's not the way he used to be,
no.
And that they have to send him down the river. It's what they have to do. They even do that in Deep Space Nine, which I thought was very professionally done.
Oh, in the Rules of Engagement,
where O'Brien says, no, I wouldn't have done that.
No.
But then he comes right back and says, but to be fair, everything looks different when you're sitting in that chair. He said, I'm making a decision way after the fact in a moment of calm.
Yeah.
So, but I like that. That to me is interesting. And he didn't want to do that. He had to give an honest answer, but he wasn't trying to hurt Worf, and Worf knows that, so he didn't take that personally or anything. But that's interesting to me. So seeing Archer, he's committed to what he's going to do and what he will do, but it doesn't come without cost, and I like seeing that it's tearing him up. I enjoy that.
It's for the good of the ship, for the good of the cause. He knows he has to make that hard decision.
Yeah, which is something I commented on maybe our last episode or the one before that, where there's a scene, I think it's in the 4th season.
Unlike with Janeway, on the other hand, in Tuvix, like would they really have missed Neelix? I mean, they could have gone on. I mean, maybe Tuvok.
They might have missed Tuvok.
They could have gone on just fine.
But everyone
Neelix
loved
at that
Tuvix.
Point. They could have gone on just fine.
They would have.
It would have been fine.
And arguably better. The mix of those two was like magic. Yeah. It just worked. he, like Janeway said in her voiceover, he was a counselor, he was a friend,
a lot of things. He was a Renaissance man.
He was a Renaissance man. He was too good to live.
And on the weekends, he taught army recruits Shakespeare.
Right. He can do anything. This guy. What was I saying?
I lost I cut you off and then can't remember the point you were trying to make.
Yeah, I lost it too. Doesn't matter. Whatever.
Well, you were talking about Archer's decision. His moral dilemma, the choice he had to make.
Yeah, no? but I don't know what I was driving at now. It's gone.
Sorry.
I'm sure it was epic.
Yeah, and
whatever it was.
Yeah. Well, so what's coming up next?
What is coming up next? It is. Can't do drum rolls. Drum roll.
Joy to the world. Yeah, what?
Carpenter Street.
Carpenter Street.
That's the one where they go back to modern day time. They time travel. And Archer and T'Pol are walking the streets of LA and all of that.
Really? That's the next one?
Yep. And the Xindi are in this one at least.
They are?
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time remembering this one at all.
This is all from memory.
Okay.
The Xindi are time traveling and they're using modern day people for like experiments for something to that effect. And they're using Leland Orser, who shows back up, he's a junkie, and they're giving him drugs so he'll bring people in. He's like, he knows he's bringing people to be sacrificed, and Archer and T'Pol end up in LA at night, as I recall. It's like always at night, and they meet up with Leland Orser and like they're trying to get him to connect to the Xindi. That's all I got from memory right there.
This is not drawing any pictures in my mind. Like I can't see anything.
Well,
is it a stinker?
I don't remember. Okay. I don't remember if it is or it isn't, honestly.
Something feels bad about it. Like I smell something rotten.
Well, yeah. To be put to for Xindi to use time travel for that purpose seems like a very thin reason for them to save some money and go shoot on the streets of LA. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got me. I mean, literally 2 episodes before this, they did a Western episode. Like, can you not commit to your own premise?
Apparently not.
Come on. So,
okay. Well, I guess I'm not really looking forward to this then.
I don't know if I am or I'm not. I just don't know.
I'm curious to see what it is, but I'll have to wait a whole week to find out. Okay. Well, if you like to write into the show, it's podcastnx01@gmail.com. Please write in with your thoughts on episodes or ideas or who you are, just like Matt just sent us.
Yep.
Whatever. How you found the show, how you found us.
From.
Anything like that. If you'd like to continue writing in like Sebastian does, become an honorary member of the show.
Yeah.
That would be great too. Just email us at podcastnx01@gmail.com and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, by the way.
Yes, please.
That helps us out. All right. Until, I guess I'll see you on Carpenter Street, brother. Bye.
I'm hailing a cab now.